So let's bring in the head of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton from Washington, D.C. From the very beginning, I said that if you are a victim of abuse, of any kind of assault, you don't hire a politically activist law firm. You hire a forensic attorney, somebody who deals with this kind of stuff all the time, because it's a criminal act, all right, if you are assaulted. And as soon as I saw Dr. Ford hire Katz, Marshall, and Banks, which is the firm you're going after, I said, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Did you, number one, feel the same way about it? And when you knew that this law firm was engaged by Dr. Ford, what went through your mind?
Well, what struck me was when I learned at the hearing which I attended, where Dr. Ford said, I forget whether it was Katz or one of her other two lawyers, that they were recommended to her by Feinstein's people, the minority staff of Democrats on the Judiciary Committee, which raised alarm bells. And then on top of that, you have her testifying that she didn't know basic information about what the committee wanted to do in terms of questioning her privately, rather than making her go through that hearing that really never needed to take place if it had been done properly, in terms of allowing the committee to talk to her privately and having Judge Kavanaugh at the time address the allegations privately. But instead, her lawyers evidently didn't apprise her of what the committee offered to do in terms of having her questioning her at home in California. And I remember thinking at the time, boy, that's a real problem for her lawyers. And that's why we followed up in the end with an ethics complaint with the D.C. bar here in Washington, D.C.
Now, you know how political these bar associations are. Do you expect to get anywhere?
I think it will take a long time to get anywhere, given our experience with the bar. But I think in the least, they're going to have to answer to the bar about what they did in response to our complaint, which quotes extensively from the testimony. We don't do these. We don't file a bar complaint against a lawyer lightly, Bill. We looked at the transcript. It was pretty clear that she was not aware of this key offer to go out and have her give information to the committee staff directly in California, and that's a real problem for our lawyers. Either she wasn't telling the truth, or they have to kind of explain why it is she was under this misimpression from the committee and why they didn't correct that misimpression.
There's definitely a problem there in the Ford camp. Now, if Dr. Ford was truthful in saying she never wanted to go public, she wanted to handle this in a way that the information got to the Judiciary Committee, certainly the solution would have been for the committee to interview her privately, at least at first. But they never did that because, as Dr. Ford told Congress under oath, she didn't know about the offer. So it seems to me that Judicial Watch is on very, very firm ground. But again, I will go back to the fact that this is Washington, D.C. This is a very well-known law firm. I'm sure you know it, okay, with a lot of juice. And it would be shocking if they got sanctioned at all, wouldn't it?
It'd be a pleasant surprise, that's for sure. I think the problem that her lawyers have is that it looked like they may have been advocating for the Democrats on the committee as opposed to the interests of their client. And they obviously don't like the fact we filed the bar complaint. They're upset. They're saying their client was confused. But I can't imagine.
How could the client be confused? I mean, you either know about the offer to interview in private and you're home, or you don't. And that's a bunch of bull. What do you know about this Katz, Marshall, and Banks? I mean, this is a very activist, liberal, progressive, politically involved firm, is it not?
It is, but on the other hand, Bill, you can be a politically activist firm, and you've been doing this a long time. There are a lot of good lawyers who are Democratic operatives, in the sense that you would go to them for legal advice, even though they're very active in politics or on behalf of their public policy views. So it's not necessarily a bar to having a good legal representation. But it looks to me, and again, I was sitting in the hearing room, I heard her testify, and I thought, oh my gosh, her lawyers did something wrong here. And a review of the testimony, a close review of the testimony, confirmed that. So, it's not about their politics. It's about whether or not they follow the rules and keeping their client apprised of key aspects.
But it is about the politics a little bit, because it was represented to the country that Dr. Ford was a victim of an assault when she was 15 years old by a man who was being considered for the Supreme Court. It's a huge story. Now, to me, I want somebody who is going to make the accusation responsibly, and I'm not sure this was responsible now. I'm not sure about that as an American. All right, no, I don't know what happened, and I've said that from the very beginning. But to me, I mean, this doesn't look like the crew that you go to. It's such a polarized law firm. It's so anti-Republican and anti-Kavanaugh, so that she's going into the most virulent anti-Republican, anti-Trump situation she could possibly go into.
Yeah, I mean, like my point was that you can have political lawyers who are good lawyers, but in this case, it looks like there were political lawyers who put politics above their representation of their client here.
And it was quite obvious that they wanted to destroy Kavanaugh for political reasons. Now, they don't know what happened. Lawyers don't know what happened. They have to believe their clients, but they don't want. There's no forensic evidence at all and no corroboration at all, as we know. Last question. What about Go ahead.
Just quickly, the goal of the Democrats was to get a hearing. And, by keeping their client in the dark, as it seems, about the opportunities to avoid
they wouldn't have gotten a hearing.
Exactly.
Yeah, they wouldn't have gotten. Well, they would have eventually, because Feinstein would have made sure that got out. Leaks and all of that. You know that. Now, last question. Avenatti and Swetnick. Okay. How fast did that disappear? Swetnick makes one appearance on television, the whole story collapses. And she went to a liberal interviewer who wasn't even, challenging her that much. The whole thing fell apart. Okay?
Right.
Now, I hope you follow this, because you're going to have to do a Freedom of Information Act a year from now, because I know the FBI they're not going to present it in the way it should be presented to the public. I don't have any confidence in them at all.
Well, I wish I could say that past experience shows that you're wrong about that, but I agree that you are right to be skeptical. But good for Chuck Grassley for at least referring to the Justice Department that there was this obvious effort to mislead Congress and lie, and whether Avenatti is partially responsible for that needs to be investigated. What's interesting is in the letter, I read Grassley's letter. I didn't realize this, but did you know that Swetnick was Katz's client for a period of time? I
did not know that. So she was Dr. Ford's lawyer's client as well. Gee, what a small world.
Yes, convenient, isn't it?
Boy, I'd like to see. I really like to see the whole thing unravel, and I'm sure you're going to have to do it with Freedom of Information FOIA requests, because I don't think the folks are going to get what really is going on here. So, Judicial Watch, we love them. They're watching the powerful people. And Tom, we really appreciate you taking the time tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome, Bill. Thank you.
Okay.